The NHL's collective bargaining agreement. There were certain parts of it that were going to be implemented starting in September of 2026, but that has changed, and it can have massive implications for this Florida Panthers team moving into this season because they've ratified a few things. I'm going to tell you what has happened and how it is going to be affecting this Florida Panthers squad, especially with Matthew Tkachuk being back on long-term injury reserve after having a surgery on his groin. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Panthers Digest. I am Greg Andrews. Hit that subscribe button down below. You guys need to stay up to date with anything and everything that has to do with your back-to-back Stanley Cup champion, Florida Panthers. So this episode is kind of a two-parter. I'm going to be talking about, yes, that CBA agreement and some of the changes that have been ratified that are going to be taking place this season and not in 2026 at the end of the year in September. We're also going to talk about how this past season was a little bit more remarkable for the Florida Panthers, the regular season, I would say, than people are really giving it credit for. So I want to talk about a little bit of the things that have changed, especially after the Four Nations Cup and the injury to Matthew Tkachuk. We'll get into that in a second. But right now, this is what I want to touch on, guys. The NHL and NHLPA expedited the CBA playoff cap change. Well, what does that mean? It's a little confusing, so try to bear with me. I'm going to be going through my notes here in terms of trying to get you guys to understand. So the salary cap rules during the regular season are still in effect. Long-term injury reserve is still there, but when teams enter into the playoffs, they must be cap compliant. There's going to be a specific number that the 18 players on the bench, as well as the 2 goalies, must adhere to that salary cap. So there is no longer going to be the free range of having whatever cap limit you want heading into the playoffs. You must adhere to the salary cap at 3 p.m. local time or 5 hours before a playoff game. Whatever is earlier, it says teams will have to submit a roster of 18 players and 2 goaltenders, as I just stated, to the NHL Central Registry. And this will be a playoff playing roster averaged club salary that will be calculated for the roster. It must be under the upper limit of the salary cap for that specific team. And the averaged club salary is the sum of the face value averaged amounts of the player's salary and bonuses for that season for each player on the roster, and all amounts charged to the team's salary cap. So pretty much that just says they have to be underneath this cap number or be right at it. That's pretty much it. So the biggest thing of why this was moving forward this season and not next season in September of 2026 was players and general managers had some concerns. And I know people are going to cry foul and say, well, the Panthers were one of those teams. Dude, any team could do this, not just the Panthers. The Panthers just used it appropriately within the means of what was in the collective bargaining agreement. Again, they were not doing anything illegal. They were following the rules verbatim. There's nothing else to say. Don't cry foul. Anybody who's out there wants to argue with me and leave their comments and do all that stuff, okay, please. But they stayed within the rules. That's why they never suffered any sort of a slap on the wrist or even a shellacking from the NHL saying, oh no, we're going to take away money or we're going to take away a pick or whatever. They were never reprimanded, so they did nothing wrong. So don't give me any words about what you think because it's irrelevant. They didn't do anything wrong. They did everything by the book, just like the Golden Knights did, just like the Tampa Bay Lightning did in past seasons. So don't want to hear it. So the reason why this happened is teams, like I said, general managers and some players were saying it like this. They addressed this as an ongoing concern, and they said that teams were using long-term injury reserve rules to ice rosters that would have been well over the regular season upper salary cap limit. And again, like I said, there was no salary cap heading into the playoffs. Now there will be. So you can't have, if there's a $97 million limit for your cap and you have let's say $6 million because the player is on long-term injury reserve, you must meet that $97.5 million or whatever I just said. That number must be the cap limit you are at. And if your player that you are bringing back from long-term injury reserve, it's a little more confusing. There could be ways where that player might not be able to play, things like that. It gets a little more confusing. I don't really want to get into that so much. I'll read it to you here. It says, it also states that the average amount of such a replacement player may not exceed the prior season's average league salary. and there are some exceptions to the rule change. Teams can exceed the average amounts, but the injured player the injured player would be eligible to return that season or in the postseason. The exception needs approval from both the NHL and the NHLPA. So what that means is your player can return, but again, it's a picky situation. If you guys want to read about it, it's on ESPN. It's a fascinating article. But this could be a worry for the Panthers, just because again, they're already over the salary cap. I think one of the reasons why Bill Zito was being careful with this is because he knew that this change was probably going to happen. They were going to ratify this and make it happen this season. So he's not doing what he did last year, which was go out and get Brad Marchand, get Seth Jones, make some trades. They're over the salary cap and they can still bring guys back into the playoffs, so on and so forth. They're not going to do it this year. So he's being careful. I think he knows that there are some players he's probably going to have to trade or they're going to have to cut, whatever it is. Bill Zito's got a plan. I am not too worried about it. Like we always say, in Zito, we trust. So this could be a little bit hurting because we might lose some players when the postseason does begin. But like I told you guys in previous episodes, I believe that if a player such as Evan Rodriguez or someone else on the roster is having a really great season, Bill Zito might be smart enough to try to trade said player, whoever it might be. I'm not just saying it's Evan Rodriguez, but he has been the talk of the town when it comes to trading. If he is having a great season, they might try to trade him sooner than later to get more draft capital back, because they do need to work on getting younger, getting some really solid young talent, and they have not been able to really get that upper echelon of top tier talent in the draft because they traded away so many of their picks, picking up some of these players, obviously getting Matthew Tkachuk. They had to give up some guys, some pieces here and there in the last couple of years trying to put this team together. But win now mentality, that's why they did this. So let's keep moving forward, guys. The reason why I really wanted to say that this last season is more remarkable and special than people really give it credit for is because the Panthers were in first place for a majority of the season in the Atlantic Division. Now, this is a little bit later. This is February 2nd. I didn't go too far back. The reason why is because, as you can see here, I have this starting at February 25th. This is right after the Four Nations Cup. I wanted you guys to see what happened here, where they were rolling for a lot. They had several big-time win streaks, and that was the last big win streak they had of 6 games in a row. And I wanted you guys to see this because on February 2nd, the beginning of the month, they were 3 points better than the Toronto Maple Leafs. And there's a reason for this. I'm bringing this up because, to me, what was remarkable is all of those L's you are seeing at the bottom there. Those are 18 games. On March 11th, in those 18 games, they only went 7-11. Not very good. And they had 5 losses in a row, as you will see right here. So they came out of the Four Nations playoffs hot. The reason why all these L's started to happen, injury bug, PED suspension. I'm going to go over this. Bennett was out for a few games with an upper body injury. Barkov was out for several games with an upper body injury. Nico Sturm was out with an upper body injury. Obviously, Matthew Tkachuk, 25 plus games missed with a groin and hernia. Dmitry Kulikov was out for 12 games with an upper body injury. Aaron Ekblad, the PED suspension, like I said, 20 games. Several key players, and I think Sam Reinhart was out for a game or two here and there. So a lot of these losses were piling up, especially that 5 games in a row that they lost, was because they had to tap into that bench. And I'm talking about the bench that you guys have. Oh, you got some backup players that are, no, they had to go into AHL. Like Thomas Nosek had to really step up, Jonah Gadjevich, Tobias Bjornfoot, they all had to come up. There's some other guys as well. I know Samoskevich had to come up as well, and he did miss a little bit of time too. So injuries. This team had this innate ability to be able to move on from all of these setbacks. They fought through adversity. If you guys watched the Arda Okal interview that I did, he said, I think it is the most remarkable locker room in all of sports because of what they were able to do for the last 3 seasons. They are a team. It's next man up mentality, and that's exactly what happened. I wanted to show you this because, yeah, those 5 losses there and going 7-11, March 11th to April 15th, not very good. Not very good at all. So in that time span, that is when they went 7-11. They lost 5 in a row from March 30th to April 6th, and that's when they fell out of the lead. And you will see here, so on February 2nd, they were 3 points better. Fast forward to March 19th, they were tied with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but had a tiebreaker. Then at the end of the season, well, not so good. Those 5 losses in a row did not help. And that's where I'm taking you back to here. It was not a good showing, but I think a lot of other teams, what would have happened is they could have possibly fallen out of playoff contention altogether. That's why I wanted everybody to take a look at this and say this season was more remarkable, I think, than people give the team credit for, because they were able to put together a few wins here. You can see there's a 3-game winning streak towards the end of the season, 2 winning games. 2 games in a row that they won after the Washington game that they got shellacked on March 22nd. But they were able to persevere and fight through that adversity. Next man up. Their whole mentality was, we just got to get in the playoffs. We don't care about winning the division. I wanted them to win the division. I think everybody did, but I think they knew that wasn't a reality. And Paul Maurice, again, was such a genius in saying, I'm not resting my guys. And that's when he knew at one point, we're in the playoffs. We don't need to worry about it. I'm going to start making sure guys are healthy. Not resting them. I'm making sure they're healthy so that when they take the ice, our roster is at 100%. We don't have guys taking the ice, fighting through an injury, and trying to play like a lot of players do. That is smart. That is what I'm trying to tell you about how this team fought through the adversity. Next man up. Some of these guys from the AHL had to step up big time, come in, lace up those skates, and try to fit in with, and you could see in those slew of 5 losses in some of those games, you could see the chemistry was off. I mean, there were some turnovers that were just nasty and missed assignments on defense where it was just like easy pickings for the other team to throw the puck at our goaltender and at the goal, and it was going in. I mean, there were some bad games in that 5-game losing streak, and that's essentially where I think the team knew, Paul Maurice knew that, hey, we're in the playoffs. We're not going to win the division. It's not about winning the division anymore. We just need to get in, make sure everybody's healthy and ready to rock and roll, and we can go deep into the playoffs. And that's exactly what they did. That's what I'm saying. Remarkable season, because I think if it was any other team in the league, they could have fallen out of playoff contention. I really do believe that. So let's just keep flowing forward here. That was March 19th. And there's April 17th. Like I said, big time letting that slip away. Went from first to third. But we won the Stanley Cup. It was smart. The game of chess that was being played by the Florida Panthers was very smart. Again, their eyes are not on the prize of winning the Stanley Cup from day one. It's about taking it a game at a time, a series at a time. That is what they tried to do. They all want to win the Stanley Cup, yes, but they're not like, on day one, game number 1 of the regular season, we're saying we're going to win the Stanley Cup today. No, it's let's just make the playoffs, and then from there, we take it a series at a time. So that to me is absolutely remarkable if you want to look at all of the guys that were out towards the end of the season. If you want to add everything up, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, technically 6 players, maybe more. I might be missing some guys that were out for multiple games. And that hurt this team a lot, but they still ended up winning enough and stringing together some small little win streaks here and there when they really needed it, especially at the end of the season. And we'll go back to this. That last 3-game winning streak right there, and I know they lost the last 2 games, but big whoop. They were resting their guys, like I said, making sure they're healthy. So that last 3-game winning streak was critical to them making sure they solidified their playoff positioning, and the rest is history, guys. So anyways, thank you all for joining me on this episode of Panthers Digest. As always, I am your host, Greg Andrews. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, guys. Comment, like, share. I appreciate all of your support. Until next time, there won't be another episode tomorrow. I will be on vacation. Maybe I'll get one out on Saturday. We will see, but definitely Sunday. Keep your eyes out for that. I'll have some more news coming up. I'm going to dig around. And guys, if you have any questions, if you want me to research something specifically, do not hesitate to leave a comment. Again, thank you all for your support. Really appreciate it, guys. And as always, like I say, go Cats.